Okay, so in this video, I'm hopefully going to teach you by the end of this how to factor a trinomial expression. And that means how to take a trinomial, a three-termed expression, and break it up into the things that multiply to give it that. So before we get into it, I'm going to take a step back and just remind you how it is that you multiply something. So if you had x plus 3 times x plus 5, and you were multiplying this, we taught you that you multiply the first terms together, you get x squared. The outside terms would be plus 5x. Inside terms would be plus 3x. And the lasts would be 15. And this would simplify to x squared plus 8x plus 15. And from what you can see, that is equal to x plus 3 onto x plus 5. So this statement, those two things are equal. Okay, so expanding was taking these two factors and turning it into this. Factoring the trinomial means you're going to hopefully learn the skills to take the trinomial like this, and I'm going to try to teach you how to just look at this and figure out that it should be these two things multiplied together. And to do that, we're going to play a bit of a game first. We're going to set up the what adds to give and what multiplies to give game first so that you get that skill. So if I start off and ask you, we'll put what numbers add to give one thing and multiply to give another one. So, let's see if your brains can figure this one out. So if I wanted to know what numbers, wait, I want to clone this in first before we start. Yeah, so we're going to make this an infinite cloner. All right, so now, what numbers add to give 5, for example, but multiply to give 6? So think of all the numbers that multiply to give 6. 6 could be 6 times 1. 6 could be 3 times 2. Which one of those adds up to give 5? Well, 6 plus 1 is 7, so that's not it. But 3 plus 2 is 5. So the numbers 3 and 2 multiply to give 6 and add to give 5. This is your goal, is to figure out the magic numbers. And this is a skill we have to use. So we'll try like 4 examples at least of this. Okay, so what numbers add to give 9 and multiply to give 20? And I'll just pause for a second to give you time to think. You're thinking of all the factors of 20. So pausing for a minute. So I'll start writing some of them down. 20 would be 1 times 20. 20 could be 2 times 10. 20 could be 4 times 5. These ones, 1 and 20, add to give 21, so that's no good. 2 and 10 adds to give 12. That's no good. But 4 and 5 adds to give 9. So the numbers 4 and 5 are the numbers that multiply to give 20 and add to give 9. Okay, fun game so far. I give you 2 numbers and you find the numbers that multiply to give one of them and add to give a second part. Okay, has nothing to do with factoring yet, but you'll see why shortly. Pulling this out, try a third example. So what numbers add, I'll give you one a little bit harder. What numbers add to give -1 but multiply to give negative 6. So because it's a negative, we actually have more options here. So I'm going to have to write a bunch of them down. Things that multiply to give negative 6 could be negative 6 and plus 1, or positive 6 and negative 1. And so negative 6 times 1, or 6 times negative 1. You could have negative 3 times 2, or positive 3 times negative 2. So there's 4 different ways to get negative 6. Let's look at what each of those 4 add to give. So negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. 6 plus negative 1 is positive 5. Negative 3 plus positive 2, I didn't write that 3 here. Negative 3 plus positive 2 equals negative 1. And 3 plus negative 2 equals positive 1. The numbers that add to give negative 1, but multiply to give negative 6, are negative 3 and positive 2. These magical numbers. So we'll try a 4th one, trying to figure out what adds to give. Come on here, there you go. And what multiplies to give. So what adds to give 3, and what multiplies to give negative 4. So negative 4 could be negative 4 times 1, or positive 4 times negative 1. Or it could be negative 2 times 2, or 2 times negative 2, which would be the same thing. So let's look at what each of those 3 things adds to give. Negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. 4 plus negative 1 is positive 3. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. The 2 numbers, 4 and negative 1, adds to give 3. And 4 and negative 1 adds or multiplies to give negative 4. So the magic numbers that add to give 3 and multiply to give negative 4 are 4 and negative 1. Okay, so this whole skill has been to just try and determine 2 sets of magical numbers. So let's go back up to the first question at the top of this page, the one that we foiled. If we look, you've got x squared plus 8x plus 15. If you thought of this as what numbers add to give 8, but add to give 8, but multiply to give 15. If you look at what adds to give the first term and what multiplies to give the second term, what do we come out with? Well, 15 could be 15 times 1. It could be 5 times 3, and that's about it. This one adds to 16, but these 2 numbers add to give 8. They multiply to give 15, but they add to give 8. So 3 and 5 are the magic numbers. We'll look over here at your terms. 3 and 5 are the magic numbers. So when you look at the trinomial and you ask yourself what adds to give the first term and what multiplies to give the second term, the third term technically, the second and third terms, when you ask yourself what adds to give 8 and what multiplies to give 15, when you determine those two numbers, those are the numbers that go in this bracket. It's a nice, simple rule to apply. So let's try lots of examples of this rule in play. Okay, so if we're factoring, so if we give 8x squared, or sorry, x squared plus 8x plus 12, you're going to be looking for two numbers that add to give the first thing, the x, but multiply, I can't spell, multiply to give 12. So you search through for factors of 12. What adds to give 8, what multiplies to give 12. So 12 times 1, 6 times 2, 4 times 3. Well, 6 and 2 fit the bill. 6 plus 2 is 8, and 6 times 2 is 12. So that means your answer, instead of x squared plus 8x plus 12, you can write that as x plus 6, x plus 2. This is exactly the same as that. And we could check it out to see. X plus 6, x plus 2, and do FOIL. First terms, x squared. Outside, 2x. Inside, 6x. Lasts, 12. Combine, x squared. What adds to give? 2 plus 6, 8x, and 12. This is that. So this game that I was teaching you of what multiplies to give the last and what adds to give the middle is how you find the numbers that will be the factors, and this will work up until, it'll work every time as long as there's a number 1 in front of the x squared term. As soon as I give you a number other than that, everything's going to fall apart. But the rule is that easy for now when it's just x squared. Let's keep trying our rule a few more times. Asking yourself, what multiplies to give 25 and adds to give 10? 25 is 5 times 5. 10 is 5 plus 5. So the two numbers are 5s. So that means instead of x squared plus 10x plus 25, you can write that as x plus 5 and x plus 5. These two numbers go in the brackets. Trying to factor this trinomial. What multiplies to give 27? What adds to give 12? Start with the factors of 27. 27 and 1. 9 times 3. 3 times 9. So back to the same. 9 times 3 is 27, and 9 plus 3 is 12. So 9 and 3 are the two numbers. So instead of writing x, I'm going to write m. m plus 9, m plus 3. You might be wondering, but don't have the opportunity to ask, what if I wrote it in a different order? Is it okay to put m plus 3 and m plus 9? Yes, it is. Okay, if you had those reversed in their order, all good. The formula forgives you. 3 and 9 or 9 and 3, because they're being added, it doesn't matter. A couple of more. Okay, again, r squared plus 19r plus 18. What multiplies to give the last thing? What adds to give the middle? 18 is 18 and 1, or 9 and 2, or 6 and 3. 18 times 1 is 18, and 18 plus 1 is 19. So therefore, 18 and 1 are the magic numbers. So r plus 18, r plus 1. These have all been positives. We played our game with some negatives. I think I have some on the next slide. I'll make sure I do a couple of them. But we'll do one more ones with positives. What numbers multiply to give the last term, and add to give the inside. 20 could be 20 times 1. 20 could be 10 times 2. 20 could be 5 times 4. The only one of those that adds to give 9 is 5 and 4. So 5 plus 4 is 9. 5 times 4 is 20. So 5 and 4 are the numbers. A plus 5 times A plus 4 is a squared plus 9a plus 20. Nice, easy rule to apply. See if I have a couple of negative ones on the next board. Those look like they're all positives. Looking for a couple of negatives. Okay, I'll try a couple of these that have negatives in them, and then we will call it a quits for the video. So, numbers that multiply to give negative 8, and add to give negative 2. Okay, so we try all the options. There's more options this time. Negative 8 and plus 1. Positive 8 and negative 1. Negative 4 and plus 2. Positive 4 and negative 2. Each of those multiplies to give negative 8. Only one set of them adds to give negative 2. So I'll put brackets around it to make it easier to see. Negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7. 8 plus negative 1 is positive 7. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. 4 plus negative 2 is positive 2. Which one of those adds to give negative 2? Is this set of numbers right here. So the numbers of negative 4 and positive 2 are the factors you choose. So you break this up into x minus 4, x plus 2 as your factors. So the last one we'll try. What numbers multiply to give positive 35, but add to give negative 12? So your first thoughts are to take 35, it's 35 times 1, or it's 7 times 5. But neither one of those adds to give negative 12. This adds to give 36. This adds to give positive 12. So what if we thought about negative 35 times negative 1? This also multiplies to positive 35 because two negatives multiplied together makes a positive. And negative 7 times negative 5 is also positive 35. And if we look at that, negative 7 plus negative 5 is actually negative 12. So the two numbers you're looking for would be C minus 7 and C minus 5. Those would FOIL out and give C squared minus 12C plus 35. Okay, so there's some of the examples of what you're going to see. Hopefully, you're going to have some success. You're going to have multiple worksheets that build your way up, sometimes positive, sometimes negatives. Write down all of the factors and then start adding them up to see which ones meet the conditions of the trinomial with your what adds to give and what multiplies to give game. Good luck.